I never expected that a single letter would change everything. It was just an ordinary day when my mother handed me the envelope, but the moment I opened it, everything began to shift. The letter was from my father, and as I read it, I realized he had left something behind for me, something far more significant than I had imagined. The letter began with an apology of sorts, but it was a cryptic one. I suspected his sneaky behavior around the house was his way of trying to claim ownership. It read, "I was too tired from work and taking care of you all to notice his cunning actions, but now knowing Kyle as I do, I believe these suspicions were correct." I paused. My father had always been a man of few words, and even fewer emotions. But reading those lines made me feel like he had been silently watching, understanding things that I had never noticed. His suspicion was about Kyle, my stepbrother, whose behavior had always seemed too good to be true. Now, it seemed my father had been aware of it all along. The letter continued with a more surprising revelation. "I have no intention of giving the company to you, but if something unexpected happens, I have left a significant amount of money with your mother. This is to ensure that you and Lauren will not be in need. Please accept it." The words stung at first, but as they settled in, I understood the depth of what he had done. He had known how things would turn out. He knew the kind of person Kyle was, and he had planned ahead, ensuring my family would be safe. I looked up at my mother after finishing the letter. She didn't say a word, but simply glanced at the brown envelope in my hands. I hesitated before reaching for it, opening it slowly. Inside, I found a set of documents, official-looking papers, and a bank account book. It was all in my mother's name. She was quiet, but her face was filled with a somber expression. "Let me explain," my mother said, her voice steady. "If I transfer the accounts to you and Lauren's names, it would be considered a gift under tax laws. If it's mentioned in the will, Kyle might try to take it. Your father gave this money to me secretly while he was still alive to avoid Kyle's interference. Now, I want to give it to you and Lauren as a living gift." Her words, though calm, were full of meaning. I was still struggling to understand the full impact of what my father had left behind. I had never seen such large sums of money before. It wasn't about the money itself that mattered, but the fact that he had left it for me. I had always felt overshadowed by Kyle, always the second choice, the one who was never quite good enough in my father's eyes. But now, this money, this gift, proved to me that I had been wrong. He had always cared for me. Tears filled my eyes. I never expected to feel this way. Never thought I'd miss the chance to show my father how much I appreciated him. But the letter, the money, the realization that he had truly understood me, all of it overwhelmed me. "Mom," I said through the tears, "I wish I could have done more for Dad." She smiled softly, brushing a tear away. "It's natural to feel that way, but you gave your father so much joy. You were his greatest pride," she said, her voice filled with warmth. Her words hit me harder than I expected. They made me feel lighter, as if the weight of regret had finally started to lift. I realized that my father had trusted me, and he had believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. It was then that I made my decision. I would not let Kyle have what my father had worked so hard for. I would not let his legacy fall into the hands of someone who had no respect for it. Kyle thought he had won. He thought that everything was his. After all, he had become the new president of the company, right? But I knew better. I wasn't going to let that happen. I kept my plan to myself. I would be quiet. I would be smart. I wouldn't let Kyle know what I was about to do. I started by contacting the executives my father had trusted. I spoke with them in confidence, and to my surprise, they supported me. They too had grown disillusioned with Kyle's leadership and were more than willing to help me protect my father's legacy. Their trust in me was all I needed. Kyle, on the other hand, continued to act with arrogance. He took his new position as president for granted, believing that everyone else was beneath him. His behavior only made things worse for the company. He ignored his responsibilities, belittled the staff, and alienated those who had once supported him. People began leaving the company, and the morale plummeted. He didn't even seem to care. I watched it all unfold, keeping my distance. My mother and sister were playing their roles perfectly, keeping Kyle distracted and maintaining the appearance of business as usual. Kyle thought he had won. He thought he had crushed us. But I knew that the real game was only just beginning. One morning, I woke up early, my resolve firm. Today would be the day. I had spent weeks preparing, quietly gathering the majority of the company's shares. I knew Kyle's weaknesses, and I had made sure that the board of directors was behind me. As I waited for him to arrive at the office, I felt a sense of calm settle over me. This was the moment I had been waiting for. When Kyle walked into the president's office that morning, his face twisted in confusion when he saw me sitting there. "What the hell are you doing?" he demanded, his voice sharp. "Why are you sitting there? Get this person out of here!" But I didn't flinch. I met his gaze with a steady, calm look. "The one who should be leaving is you," I replied simply. Kyle was taken aback. "What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind?" His voice wavered between disbelief and anger. I knew exactly what I was doing. "Using the assets our father left us," I began, "I bought the majority of the company's shares. Today, we're holding an extraordinary general meeting, and you, Kyle, are no longer the president." His face turned pale. He sputtered, "Wait, just a minute. This can't be happening." But it was. The paperwork was all in order. Kyle had been removed. It was official. His hands shook as he grabbed the documents I handed him. "What is this?" he asked, his voice cracking. "These are the minutes from the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders," I explained calmly. "And this other document is your dismissal notice." Kyle crumpled the papers in his hands, his anger building. "You think this will hold up?" he spat. "I'll take legal action." "Go ahead," I replied coolly. "We have good reasons for our actions." Kyle was losing control, his face twisted in anger as he tried to defend himself. "You've always been after the old man's wealth. You've always wanted this company," he accused, his eyes wild. "Let me ask you, Kyle," I said, my voice steady. "Have you been using company assets for personal use? Have you signed leasing contracts for your own benefit?" Kyle froze. "What if I have?" he sneered. "What's it to you?" I listed off his offenses. "You've been taking home office equipment, computers, TVs, that should have stayed at the company. You've misused company assets for your own personal gain. Is that enough reason to act?" His face went white. "How do you know all that?" he stammered. "Let's just say I've been paying attention," I said. "You should have been more aware of your responsibilities." Kyle tried to defend himself, but I could see the walls crumbling around him. The more he struggled, the more his lies were exposed. "I didn't want this, Kyle," I said, "but you left me no choice." Kyle stood there, his mouth opening and closing in disbelief. He couldn't grasp what had just happened. He had been so sure that everything was under his control. But it wasn't. It never had been. "I'm not after your position," I told him calmly. "I'm not trying to replace you. My only goal is to protect the company our father built." Kyle scowled, his face contorted in anger. "You'll regret this," he hissed, before storming out of the office. Later that night, something unexpected happened. Lauren, my stepmother, walked up to Kyle with divorce papers. "It's over," she said, her voice shaking with years of suppressed emotion. "You've betrayed me. You've betrayed all of us." Kyle was left speechless. There was nothing he could say. After the divorce, Lauren found peace. She no longer had to worry about the company falling into the wrong hands. With the inheritance my father had left for us, Lauren was able to provide for her children and build a life away from the chaos. As for Kyle, he wasn't finished with his downward spiral. He had lost money in an investment scam and was left in debt. His arrogance had led to his downfall, and he paid the price for it. It was over. My father's legacy had been secured, and I knew he would have been proud of the decisions I made. I had protected my family, preserved the values he had instilled in me, and finally, I had learned to believe in myself.